Tonight on First at 9 this Sunday the 2nd of March 2025. Back to normal. No fuel shortage, assures CPC head, urging the public to not fall into misleading statements. Distributors agreed to hold discussions with the government next Tuesday. Out with the old. Sri Lanka's non-aligned foreign policy may hinder progress, warns experts. Calls for greater focus on maritime security to strengthen the nation's role in the region. The Sacred Exposition. After a 16-year hiatus, a special exposition of the Sacred Tooth Relic to take place in April this year. Pay to visit. Government must consider commercial benefits when permitting survey ships in Sri Lankan waters, urges former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Bailed out. Mount Lavinia magistrate releases 2 suspects arrested in connection with the abduction and torture of veteran journalist Keith Noya.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කට්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
ඉතින් මොකටද නිකන් නාගන්නේ? ස්වදේශී කොහොම ලෙමන් ග්‍රාස් අද කාලෙට ෆ්‍රෙෂ්ම විසඳුම.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Ada Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Drisingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lanka media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now in your top story tonight, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has assured that there is no fuel shortage in the country, stating that approximately 1,581 fuel orders for the upcoming week were distributed nationwide today. CPC Chairman Ananda Rajakarna announced that a special discussion with Fuel Distributors Association has been scheduled for Tuesday morning to address existing concerns. The CPC's Board of Directors recently decided to abolish the 3% commission previously granted to petroleum distributors when distributing fuel. Effective March 1st, a new formula was introduced for distributor compensation. In response, the Petroleum Distributors Association held a meeting last Friday and unanimously decided to suspend fuel orders in protest. Following the announcement, long queues formed at fuel stations on Friday night and Saturday. However, by today morning, the situation had returned to normal. Amid these developments, fuel buses departed from the CPC storage terminal in Kolonnawa today, ensuring the continued supply of fuel across the island. CPC Chairman Ananda Rajakarna provided an update regarding fuel orders and distributions over the past 2 days. The day before yesterday, 4,322 metric tons of diesel were distributed. Yesterday, we issued 8,568 metric tons. For petrol 92 octane, we released only 3,221 metric tons the day before yesterday, while yesterday 7,878 metric tons were distributed. Regarding super diesel, 86 metric tons were released on Friday and 200 metric tons were issued yesterday. For petrol 95 octane, 105 metric tons were released on Friday, while yesterday 283 metric tons were distributed. In total, we nearly doubled the amount of fuel distributed yesterday compared to Friday. Therefore, there is no reason for a shortage in the country. We believe that these misleading statements are being made deliberately to sabotage operations. Individuals making these claims have themselves placed fuel orders, received supplies from the Kolonnawa terminal as well as Trincomalee, and distributed fuel. As of today, we have received over 1,581 fuel orders, which are currently being distributed across the island. There were reports mentioning 2 names. It was stated that Kusum Sandanayaka ordered 19,800 litres of petrol and 6,600 litres of diesel. Yes, that is true. However, my name was also mentioned, and I must clarify that data provided under my name is inaccurate. On Friday, I ordered 13,200 litres of diesel and 26,400 litres of petrol. The chairman has invited us for a discussion next Tuesday, and we will attend them accordingly. Meanwhile, the Petroleum Distributors Association announced that in light of the government's decision, payments for fuel orders will not be accepted via debit or credit cards. CPC Chairman Ananda Rajakarna also addressed this matter. Individuals issuing these statements are distributors of the IOC. If they are refusing to accept credit card payments for fuel, that is a matter they need to resolve with the IOC. They claim that delays in receiving payments may be the reason for their decision. However, according to the CPC's discussion with the banks, arrangements have already been made to ensure on-time payments. All these statements are being made with the intent to mislead the public.
Now let's see what the latest political thoughts are on the recent fuel issue.
රජයට දැන් පුළුවන් මේ ගැන විධිමත් සාකච්ඡාවක් ඇති කරන්න.
The government can commence a productive conversation on this matter without resorting to boastful remarks. The root of the matter is the unbearable tax imposed on fuel. The tax is currently at 90 rupees per litre of diesel and 120 rupees per litre of petrol. These taxes are what caused this issue.
මේ අර්බුදයේ ඇත්ත මූල හේතුව
තෙල් බෙදුම්කරුවන්ට තෙල් සංස්ථාව මෙතෙක් කල්
The CPC has issued new guidelines on the commission claimed by fuel distributors. The CPC had to pay out a commission even on the taxes they charged. The solution to this issue is not withdrawing from ordering fuel. If they intend to pull back from delivering fuel, I don't think they want to find a solution for this issue.
තෙල් බෙදා හැරීමෙන් ඉවත් වෙනවා වගේ කතාවක්. ඉතින් ඒක මට හිතෙන්නේ මේ ප්‍රශ්නට උත්තරය හොයන විදිය නෙමෙයි.
කුමන්ත්‍රණ දැන් තියෙන්නේ. ඔය තෙල් කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් තියෙන්නේ.
This is a fuel conspiracy. No fuel was distributed in the filling stations affiliated to certain politicians. Please boycott those sheds when this issue subsides. Should you accept services from a filling station that deliberately refused to pump fuel even when they had stocks in full? They did so in an attempt to steal public wealth. You can pump fuel at the next filling station.
ඊට එහා පැත්තේ මේ කිලෝමීටර් 4කට හැන් තෙල් එක තියෙන්නේ 11 එකකින් ගිහින්.
නෑ මම බලන් හිටියේ මේ ඉන්ධන පොලිමත් රාජපක්ෂලා හැදුවද කියයි කියලා.
I was anticipating cries that the Rajapakshas created these fuel queues. They could have claimed that monkeys caused these fuel queues. The government must hold discussions with the relevant parties. Certain mistakes could happen. The people have understood it. The people have realized the lies spread by the incumbent government.
අද ජනතාවට ඒත්තු ගනිලා තියෙනවා. 103ක් ලබා ගැනීම සහ වැඩිවන මිලානුව 103ක් ලබා ගැනීම.
The court order deemed it unlawful to claim 3%. The court further held that it is unlawful to claim it after adding the tax onto the cost. We act on behalf of the people. Even when the court issued an order as such in the past, the order was not executed by previous cabinets since certain ministers were shed owners themselves. Even when the people lost 37 billion rupees, former ministers remained silent since they too were entitled to the 3% commission. The government represents the people. The government will not change its decision.
ආණ්ඩුව ඉන්නේ ජනතාවගේ පැත්තේ. ආණ්ඩුවගත් තීන්දුව වෙනස් කරන්න.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance. චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මනාපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Don't waste time. Start your degree with pending A-level results this February with our partner universities. Call ACBT on 0117 699 499.
Less sugar, same great taste. From Melbourne.
Now, meanwhile, former Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara stated that the previous administration was unable to implement the pricing formula introduced by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation for petroleum dealers due to the legal proceedings as well as the change in government that took place in September 2024. In a statement issued on his X account, the minister, responding to allegations against the previous government, clarified that the Petroleum Dealers Association had obtained the court orders from the High Court in 2022 and the Court of Appeal in 2023, preventing the administration from implementing a tariff formula approved by the CPC. However, the Court of Appeal revoked the previous order on the 30th of August 2024, and the ministry received the ruling on Monday, the 2nd of September 2024. Subsequently, the then Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy immediately wrote to the Attorney General's Department seeking directions and legal opinion on the implementation of the order. Simultaneously, the CPC was instructed to take the necessary steps to proceed accordingly. According to the former minister, the Petroleum Dealers Association appealed the decision in the Supreme Court in the second week of September 2024, with the first hearing taking place on the 18th of September. He further stated that he is unaware of any subsequent verdict issued by the Supreme Court or any response from the Attorney General regarding the request. Now in other news, in a move to tackle crop damage caused by wild animals and to formulate strategies to mitigate such damage, the government announced that nationwide census of wild animals will be conducted from the second week of March. The decision by the government was prompted by the lack of adequate data on the specific species and populations of wild animals causing such crop damage.
Crop damage caused by wild animals, including elephants and monkeys, has been at the epicenter of national attention off the back of an acute shortage of rice and coconuts in the recent past. The decision by the government to conduct this survey was prompted by the lack of adequate data on the specific species and populations of wild animals causing crop damage. Accordingly, plans are underway to initiate the island-wide census on the 15th of March. Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Namal Karunaratne expressed views in this regard yesterday. The government will conduct a census on crop-damaging animals, including monkeys, giant squirrels and peacocks. During the census, officers of each divisional secretariat domain will be given 5 minutes to count the number of animals on each property. 5 minutes have been allocated for this task because it is possible that wild animals may hop on to other nearby properties in the area. This census is crucial in providing a long-term solution to this issue. Meanwhile, other political representatives too shared their views on the island-wide census of wild animals. I don't know how this government will address the concerns of the public. They have no clue on how to resolve the persisting issues in the country. Jesters have been appointed as ministers of this country. We request them to stop making ridiculous suggestions and provide proper answers to the issues grappling farmers. Given rapid advancements in technology, why is the government resorting to such preliminary and impractical approaches to address these persisting issues? It seems that this government is not capable of resolving public issues. Deputy Minister of Land and Irrigation Dr. Susil Ranasinghe claims that a 15-member expert committee has been appointed to look into the crop damage caused by wild animals and to provide essential recommendations for managing the animals responsible.
Now, the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court ordered the release of 2 suspects arrested over the abduction and torture of renowned journalist Keith Noya on surety bonds of 1 million rupees each. The 2 suspects nabbed were former intelligence officers previously in the service of the Sri Lanka Army.
On the 22nd of May 2008, Associate Editor of the Nation newspaper, renowned journalist Keith Noya, was abducted and thrown into a white van in front of his residence at Vaidya Road, Dehiwala. The kidnappers beat Keith Noya severely and tortured him before letting him go. Subsequently, Keith Noya, who gave up his career as a journalist, fled Sri Lanka and took up residence abroad. At the time of his abduction, Keith Noya was infamous for his reports on the country's security developments accessed by the public through the widely read column titled Military Matters in the Nation newspaper. In 2019, the then Attorney General ordered the arrest of 3 individuals who were suspected to be involved in Keith Noya's abduction and subsequent assault. When the relevant legal matter was taken up before the Mount Lavinia Additional Magistrates Court, the magistrate raised concern on why the suspects have not been arrested yet by the Criminal Investigation Department. Subsequently, 2 of the 3 suspects were arrested by the CID yesterday and produced before the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court today. The 2 arrestees, aged 42 and 46, were revealed to be former intelligence officers in service of the Sri Lanka Army. Upon reviewing the facts submitted to court, the additional magistrate ordered the release of the 2 suspects on surety bonds of 1 million rupees each. The matter is scheduled to be taken up in court again on the 13th of October this year.
Now, Director of the Centre for Law and Security Studies, Nilanthan Niruthan, states that Sri Lanka's non-aligned or balanced foreign policy is an outdated model in the modern world. Speaking on a current affairs program at Hyde Park with Indivari Amuwatta, Niruthan further emphasized that until Sri Lanka formulates a well-defined foreign policy, the nation will remain stagnant without a clear path for development. Meanwhile, commenting on regional security, international relations and geopolitics expert Dinuk Kolambige highlighted the potential impact of global maritime security issues on Sri Lanka's maritime operations. He asserts that maritime security is a crucial factor that Sri Lanka must prioritize if it aspires to become a key player in the region.
Our would you really look at the threats and the kind of security issues that we face, whether it's maritime or regional security, especially when we work with our regional superpowers?
If you look at maritime security, it need not be a direct threat to the country, but if maritime security is not ensured, it has an impact on Sri Lanka. Following the outbreak of the war in Gaza, the Houthi rebels undertook attacks on the shipping lines in the Red Sea, resulted in many shipping companies diverting their ships away from the Suez Canal around the Cape of Good Hope. Initially, Sri Lanka had a bit of a boost in the volume that went through its ports, but then it has since now tailed off. Companies are finding it more expensive. Companies are moving elsewhere to other ports. Now that's an issue that impacted us, and it resulted from a security concern. On that occasion, the US, it was I think UK, several other European countries, Australia, they formed a very loosely knitted together a naval coalition to deal with the problems. Sri Lanka entered it purely on a logistical basis, but it was more a sign that we're ready to play a role.
Right.
Unfortunately, India did not get involved in that. India decided that they are going to take their own precautions in terms of securing the shipping line. Securing our maritime national security or maritime security has to be one of the priorities for Sri Lanka if they want to be a regional player. India is the net security provider, but the onus cannot be solely on India. They have to be supported by countries and the littoral state in the region.
Speaking about China, India and major countries influencing Sri Lanka, being a part of Sri Lanka, do you think there would be a benefit for Sri Lanka in aligning ourselves with a major power center?
I don't think it's our job to tell the country whom we should be aligning with. The problem is that general foreign policy thinking here and most of the foreign policy quote-unquote experts here are very comfortable using cliches and jargon like balancing act and non-alignment and all that, but these words don't really mean anything. 20th century after independence, if it was the SLFP, we would be aligned towards the Eastern Hemisphere. If it was the UNP, we would be aligned towards the Western Hemisphere. If we look at the last 4 or 5 heads of state, they've all had different foreign policies. Foreign policy here is basically the hostage of whoever's in power. We don't even have a piece of paper on what our foreign policy objectives are. Look at the Asian continent. Pick out what you consider to be the successful countries. Israel, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, South Korea, and you see for yourself whether these are aligned countries or non-aligned countries, and you will know the answer. In the modern day world, when there are so many power centers all over the world, where it's becoming transactional, where we need to offer them something for them to be a net guarantor of security, this model is completely broken. Until we have an actual foreign policy doctrine in our country, we will not really move forward in terms of our engagement with the international community at all.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
ඩයිබටසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම්වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
කැලනි වයර් කිසිගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසිගින්නක් නෑ. කැලනි ෆයර් ෂීල්ඩ් වයර්.
Malibu chocolate cream, inguru and lemon puff. Less sugar, same great taste. From Malibu.
Responsibility to look after our health.
The best nutritional supplement for diabetic patients with no added sugar. Malibu Vitagen. Stay healthy for a good reason.
Meanwhile, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe claims that emerging out of bankruptcy was insufficient for Sri Lanka and disclosed that his government had plans to sell renewable energy to India in an effort to boost both countries' economies while ensuring that the issue pertaining to Sri Lanka's foreign exchange earnings deficit would also be resolved. He made these remarks at the next Conclave 2025 in New Delhi yesterday. Wickremesinghe further went on to say that he is anticipating eagerly to learn more about the incumbent government's stance on pursuing the proposed wind power project with India.
The inaugural Next Conclave 2025 International Summit was held in New Delhi, India yesterday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi graced the occasion as its chief guest. Meanwhile, former Sri Lankan President and guest of honor of the event, Ranil Wickremesinghe, also engaged in a Q&A session, delivering his stance on the future of South Asia.
So Sri Lanka, getting out of bankruptcy not sufficient. We also have a deficit in our foreign exchange earnings. How do we work together? So Prime Minister and Modi and I spoke, and we put all our agreements, our projects together. Basically, the idea was that we will sell renewable energy to India. I was trying to give 25 gigawatts or even 50 if you could do it, so that economy would have benefited, you would have benefited. Secondly was to make Trincomalee the regional logistic hub with the pipeline coming in from Nagapatnam and us putting basically a refinery there and developing it. So we were thinking in terms of developing that cluster. Then I was looking at how we can develop this corridor which could have linked Madurai, the south of Tamil Nadu, up to Trincomalee. Unfortunately, we seem to be having some problems with first project. We had the wind power project, but I think that should go through. So let's see what the government works out.
What is your perspective when it comes to China having massive influence in the subcontinent, and particularly Sri Lanka?
As far as the survey ships were there, it was being done by China and some others, but I sort of stopped it for the time being to look at it, and then I found that other countries were doing surveys in Sri Lanka and we were not getting the commercial benefit of it, and that we should bring in a law which ensured that we had the commercial benefits and were genuinely commercial events that came along. My concerns went even bigger. Even if you are commercial concerned, if I don't benefit, why should I allow you to be in my sea? So we had stopped that.
How must India and Sri Lanka trade, work together for the equal and mutual development of the countries?
Well, it's going to take some time because the trade balance is more in your favor because we have to buy so much of food stuff. At the moment, there aren't that much opportunity for Sri Lanka to gain money from India except tourism. But given a 10 to 15 year period, yes, I think we can do more.
Do you gain a lot the more India and China fight?
India knows how to play the game. No? You're with the COD, you're with the BRICS. So how can we go and intervene in a fight? You all are playing your game, we are playing our game, right?
A leader of the Sarvajana Balaya parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira claims that the healthcare industry, though dubbed a mafia, thinks beyond profit in rendering its services. He made those remarks at the closing ceremony of the 14th edition of the Medicare International Healthcare Exhibition 2025, sponsored by the Derana Media Network. The event was held under the patronage of Leader of the Opposition Sajith Premadasa and Leader of Sarvajana Balaya parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira.
The 14th edition of the Medicare International Healthcare Exhibition 2025, which commenced on the 28th of February, was held today at the Bandaranaike Memorial International Conference Hall. Its closing ceremony was held today under the patronage of Opposition Leader Sajith Premadasa and Leader of the Sarvajana Balaya parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira.
This healthcare had made me pretty famous, and that in fact probably would have given me the path to get into politics. During COVID times, when country decided to bring down Sri Lankans living abroad, I offered Hotel Citrus Vaskadua free of charge. Of course, I didn't know the depth of it. But then I got a call after a week or so from the tourist board chairperson saying that there are other hotels also willing to join you, and asked whether we could agree on a reasonable charge, which became 7,500, and then it spread to few other hotels. And on and off, I hear people saying that we made money off COVID, which is not so at all. When one of my companies had to get involved in bringing down COVID antigen. So that's how I became antigen hora. I knew antigen, which we have been bringing down, George Road Health has been bringing down for other things like dengue and influenza. So we were masters at antigen, but not COVID antigen. When I heard that antigen tests are going to be available, I was worried, because if you start antigen testing, which means that there will be that many cases. This antigen test, which we brought down to Sri Lanka at that time, that managed to save people and industries. Today I am very thankful I could go to Parliament and be a member there when the very people who on social media alleged that we were selling these test kits at higher prices, and our dear Minister of Health said it didn't happen. So I'm happy that for the sake of the industry, my name got cleared. So this industry has been called at times industry full of mafia, like in any other industry. But we take it very seriously. And we always thought every decision when we took beyond profit, this is something that we deal with the people and their lives. It is great to see that Medicare 2025 happening, showing how committed these stakeholders are to the industry. And this will help to educate our people more about the industry and the opportunities, and thereby we can make Sri Lanka a healthy nation and a very happy nation.
Afterwards, Opposition Leader Sajith Premadasa and Parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira viewed the exhibition.
Now, a special exposition of the Sacred Tooth Relic is scheduled to take place at the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy on the 18th of April, followed by a 10-day public viewing period from the 19th of April. This special exposition of the Sacred Tooth Relic is being conducted after a hiatus of 16 long years.
In 1828, the Sacred Tooth Relic of the Buddha, housed in the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy, was publicly displayed for veneration, a rare occurrence during the British colonial period, which was done after pressure exerted by Kandian chiefs amidst a period of drought and potential famine. Since then, the exposition of the Sacred Tooth Relic was performed annually until 2009. Against this backdrop, President Anurudisa Nayaka, who was on a visit to Kandy recently, requested the chief prelates of the Malwatu and Asgiri chapters to hold a special exposition of the Sacred Tooth Relic for the public this year. Accordingly, dates have been announced to hold the special exposition of the Sacred Tooth Relic after 16 long years.
Following discussions with the chief prelates of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters, we have decided on the dates to hold the special exposition of the Sacred Tooth Relic after a hiatus of 16 years. Accordingly, this special exposition will commence on the 18th of April at 3 p.m. at the Temple of the Tooth Relic in Kandy. This exposition will continue for 10 days thereafter from 12 noon to 5:30 p.m. Following that, the daily rituals for the Sacred Tooth Relic will be performed. We request the devotees to pay homage to the sacred relic and provide assistance to facilitate the proceedings.
Meanwhile, a special discussion on the exposition of the Sacred Tooth Relic was held at the official residence of the President in Kandy today under the patronage of President Anurudisa Nayaka. The discussion saw the attendance of the chief prelates of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters, chief custodian of the Temple of the Tooth Relic in Kandy, and several other political representatives.
I'm thankful for the chief prelates of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters for granting approval to hold this special exposition in the country. Large crowds are expected to pay homage to the Sacred Tooth Relic. Thereby, it is our responsibility to provide the required arrangements to facilitate the proceedings in order to ensure that the public can visit the exposition without any interference. Thereafter, we can decide on whether the exposition will be further extended for public viewing even after the 27th of April. This is not merely for public viewing. This is the fundamental step in re-establishing discipline and morality in the country. Although the society seems peaceful, it has collapsed underneath. Let's make this an opportunity for an initial transformation of the socio-cultural body.
Speaking further on the exposition, the President said that the special exposition, which will be held as an extension of the Sinhala Tamil New Year, will direct the country along a fresh path. It has been decided to grant holidays to schools in Kandy during the period of the exposition. During the discussion, a decision was also taken to duly register all those who intend to set up free food stalls for devotees.
Welcome back. Now, with a target of achieving 3 million tourist arrivals for this year, Sri Lanka has welcomed 485,102 tourists during January and February. According to the latest statistics from the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, 232,341 tourist arrivals were recorded between the 1st and the 27th of February this year. The highest number of tourist arrivals were recorded between the 8th and 14th of February, with 63,164 tourists visiting the island. India has so far remained at the top of the list with 34,006 tourists visiting the country, while the Russian Federation remained close in second with a record of 29,241 Russian tourists visiting Sri Lanka. A significant number of tourist arrivals were also reported from the United Kingdom, Germany, France and China. Now, in other business news, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce commended the government for successfully completing the third review under the IMF Extended Fund Facility arrangement, stating that the latest approval and subsequent disbursement will provide the much-needed support for Sri Lanka's ongoing economic recovery. In its statement, the Chamber urged the government to accelerate the implementation of structural reforms essential for sustainable growth as the country enters the second half of the 4-year IMF-EFF program. The Chamber specifically requested the government to prioritize trade facilitation reforms, including the National Single Window and the new Customs Act, as well as advancing digital ID and digital public infrastructure. Additionally, enacting critical legislation such as the Economic Transformation Act and strengthening governance reforms to enhance investing and business environment were highlighted as key areas of focus. The Chamber further emphasized the importance of widening the tax net to achieve fiscal targets through improved revenue administration and digitalization. Now in your sports news, the 95th Battle of the Maroons cricket match between Ananda College Colombo and Nalanda College Colombo ended in a draw today. Ananda College batted first in the match held at SSC Stadium, Colombo, and declared their first innings after scoring 324 runs for the loss of 6 wickets. Nalanda College responded with a total of 325 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in their first innings. At the conclusion of the match, Ananda College, playing their second innings, had scored 27 runs for the loss of 1 wicket, resulting in a draw. Meanwhile, the 75th Battle of the Ghouls between Prince of Wales College Moratuwa and St Sebastian's College Moratuwa also ended in a draw. Batting first in the match at the De Soisa Cricket Ground, Moratuwa, Prince of Wales College was bowled out for 161 runs in their first innings. St Sebastian's College responded with a total of 208 runs before being dismissed. Starting their second innings with a 47-run deficit, St Sebastian's College had reached 157 runs for the loss of 6 wickets when the match concluded in a draw. That's all the news we have for you tonight. For further updates, stay in touch with Ada Derana, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.